How's it going, everybody? I'm Dave Glavin, an aspiring NBA salary cap strategist, and today I'll be discussing the Oklahoma City Thunder's cap situation, as well as some options that they're going to have in the near future to really maximize their championship window. So, coming off an NBA title, OKC is bringing back the entire rotation, but as Sam Presti has said, it's not going to be the same roster. They're more experienced, and a majority of their roster is expected to improve just given how young they are. In the draft, they added center Thomas Sorber from Georgetown and forward Brooks Barnheiser from Northwestern. But Sorber's unfortunately going to miss the entire season with a torn ACL that happened this offseason. This is not uncharted territory for them. They're going to be welcoming Nikola Topic, who missed all of his rookie year this season for his first minutes. And the same thing happened with Chet Holmgren. He missed his entire rookie year. The theme of this offseason for them was extensions. Locked up Shea on the 4-year, $272 million extension. J Dub and Chet both got the rookie scale max, 5 years, $240 million. J Dub's escalators are a little higher. He can get up to 287, while Chet can peak at $250 million. Jalen Williams also got an extension, 3 years, $24 million. His is going to be the only deal that hits the books starting this season, which is going to set up OKC to delay their eventual repeater tax until the next collective bargaining agreement. And we'll get into that in a second, just the specifics on their finances. But one major team building win for them, as if they haven't had enough, that I'd like to highlight was not including any player option on Shea's rookie scale extension, as this is going to delay his Supermax from starting until 27-28, just giving them a lot more flexibility next season about who they're able to retain. Obviously, it's early, but I don't anticipate any external additions to the rotation this season, barring any major injuries. I expect them to stay below the tax. They're roughly $1 million below right now. Again, just to really delay the repeater tax for as long as they can. I think I could see them moving Ousmane Dieng, just based on where I project this rotation to be. I don't see a ton of minutes for him. And what we've seen so far doesn't warrant an extension, especially before the rookie scale deadline in a couple weeks. Interested to see who fills that third two-way slot. I expect it to be one of these four Exhibit 10s. Wouldn't be surprised if it's Chris Youngblood. Played really well last night in their preseason game. Presti's talked a lot about, especially in this most recent press conference, about how much time the front office really dedicates to the back end of the roster, doing anything they can to find guys who can contribute as role players and really complement their stars. In terms of other extension candidates, Isaiah Hartenstein, Lou Dort, and Kenrich Williams are eligible through next June, so not pressing. I don't expect Kenrich Williams to be offered an extension, and I do think that team option is going to get declined just based on where their finances are headed. Great locker room guy, but I could see them offering for him to come back on the minimum. I think other teams are going to value him kind of in the tax mid-level range, somewhere around $6 million average annual value. So I don't think Kenrich is going to be a part of the team after this season. Hardenstein and Dort are interesting cases. 27 and 26 years old, respectively. Fantastic role players. Dort's the longest tenured Thunder. When they initially signed Hartenstein, I thought there would be no way they could retain him once those rookie scale extensions for Holmgren and Williams kicked in. And it's still unlikely, just based on where his team option is at and the type of salary he could command. But let's take a look at the options. Without taking into account these 4 first-round picks that they have, likely 3, just given that Utah is going to finish in the top 8. They're set to be about $17 million over the second apron when you take into account that this team option is most likely going to get waived, with 13 guys on the roster. They've got 10 firsts over the next 4 drafts, so they can be really selective about which picks to keep and which ones to roll over to acquire future draft pick compensation. Again, I expect them to only have 3 here, just given that Utah does not project to be outside the top 8. In this scenario, we'll have them keeping the top 2 selections. I doubt they'll take 3 first-round picks in the same season. In ballpark, those cap hits right around $7 million total, which would put them at a full 15-man roster and about $24 million above the second apron. Their owner has shown a willingness to spend deep into the tax before, and Presti's talked about how the capital from the new media rights deal and their new arena is really going to assist with where this roster is headed financially, as well as potential expansion down the line. But what's that spending limit? Small market. They were top 3 in payroll for 3 seasons at the tail end of the last decade for those Russ Paul George teams, as well as the year with Chris Paul. One other thing to note is the escalation language in Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren's rookie scale max extensions. Chet can get up to 26% if he meets the criteria, while J-Dub can get 26, 27, or 30%. So just got to make sure they have the flexibility in case either of those guys trigger those escalators. What's that spending limit? Again, I think that's a really important question when you take into account where this team is heading. And that brings us back to Hartenstein and Dort. The easy option on paper is to move one of those guys for some significant financial relief, as well as a return of either young players or future draft capital. And then those guys could sign an extension with their new team. And that would give OKC a much more manageable tax payment. Despite their depth, I really don't see a viable replacement for either of those two at this point. I do like what J. Will brings to the table on both ends, and 10 months from now, he might be a serviceable replacement, but it's really difficult to replicate the little things that Hartenstein does on the court. He's a great player in the short roll, great decision maker, and he's always in the right position defensively. He's had a ton of stops around the league, really seems to love being a part of this team. But how does that affect his next extension? Them drafting Thomas Sorber indicates to me that they're not likely to retain Hartenstein next season. But let's take a look at what he could get, whether it's with OKC or not. I got him roughly 3 years, $83 million. Taking a look at some comparable deals, that deal starts at 15.5% of the salary cap. Jared Allen, similar structure. He got about 15%. 16%. Naz Reid on the lower end got 14 in his most recent deal, and Jakob Poeltl just signed an extension. It's kind of right in the middle, right around 15. OKC, again, they could send Hartenstein out in a signing trade, which I feel like is the best option so you don't lose him for nothing. And they would avoid any hard caps as long as they're not taking more money back. But it would be for financial relief, so they wouldn't have to worry about that. For the sake of this mock, I put a $10 million placeholder cap hold in for what they're getting back in that deal, just assuming they're not able to clear the full $25 million. In the case of Dort, I think he's a lot more likely to stay with OKC past his current deal as opposed to Hartenstein, just given his role and his tenure. The toughness and physicality that he brings is really what makes them who they are and their identity. He embodies that completely. Not that Hartenstein doesn't, but Dort's been through the entire rebuild. And I think he deserves his max extension off of his current deal, which is 140% of his current salary. Starts at $25 million, ends at 32, 4 years, almost $115 million. Couple comparable deals here. Jaden McDaniels, Trey Murphy, and Derek White. I do think Dort could command more in unrestricted free agency, but I'm not sure if OKC could fit the bill if his starting salary is reaching $30 million or something like that. If they were to go down this route, put the total roster cost right around $350 million. And I really don't expect this team to ever get into the high 300s or ever cross 400 million. And I might even be overselling their ability here as well. I'm not sure if this is viable, but regardless, I think they're going to have like a 2-year window to be over the second apron just based on where the rules are. before needing to shift out in 28-29 to avoid any draft pick penalties. Cason Wallace going to be entering the last year of his rookie deal in 26-27. I expect him to be a part of their long-term plan, just given his budding two-way ability and how well he complements Shea. But how does that affect Alex Caruso? Signed an extension after OKC traded for him. I can't imagine they'd pay both those guys once Wallace's extension kicks in. Do they try to get ahead of Caruso's aging curve and deal him next offseason as Wallace is entering the last year of his deal? Or do they wait until the 11th hour when his extension's kicking in to deal him and potentially get less value? I expect Wallace to command a similar salary to what Caruso's making, right around 10 to 12% of the cap. Assuming they keep 2 of the 3 first that they're owed in 27-28, which is OKC first that they have a swap rights with the Clippers, Denver first, top 5 protected, and a Spurs first, which is top 16 protected. Assuming they keep 2 of those, this roster is going to get close to $400 million, which I don't think is viable. But they do have the flexibility of some team options, in particular Isaiah Joe. $11.3 million. If they were able to clear all of that, would get them in a much more manageable spot, right around $340 million, which I think 350 might be a de facto hard cap for them, and even that might be pushing it. 2028-29, they'd have to get under the second apron as well as the season after to avoid any draft pick penalties, with their first being dropped at the end of the first round. I'm not going to discuss anything specific regarding that season just because it's so far away, but I wanted to give a general estimate of how their three-year plan could shake out once the bill really starts to increase. A ton of optionality, and these are really good problems to have as an organization when you have guys ready to go as your veterans are aging out of their current deals. Didn't even discuss AJ Mitchell, who I think is going to be a part of their future. Sorber out for the year. Topic hurt again, but I believe he will play this year. Aaron Wiggins on a great deal. He's going to be making $8 million under team control in 2028-29. So they're set up very well. But I appreciate anyone who tuned in. Next video is going to be on the Utah Jazz, and I appreciate any support. Thank you.